Hello and welcome to this tutorial all about the patterns that can arise when you simulate two parts built on diagonally opposite corners of the same build plate. In Simulation Utility, we start by creating a new project and importing the first part. And there it is on the build plate. Now we're going to import a second copy of the same part. Now you don't see a change here because both parts are superimposed on one another. However, you can see in the browser that there are two parts listed. So we're going to expand the build plate and translate the parts into opposite corners. On the Home tab, we click Build Plate, and then on the Size tab, change the length values for X and Y to 50 millimeters. And when finished, just click OK to see the changes. Now we'll right-click one of the parts and select Move. We'll take the first one. Make sure the translation type is set to relative to current position. So we'll move the part into a corner of the build plate, starting with small X and Y values, just to get oriented to how this works. Note the alignment of the axes in the lower left of the display. If we move a part by negative X or Y values, it will go toward the origin. Positive values move away from the origin. An outline around the part helps us to see its location. So we start by moving the part 5 millimeters in a direction that we think is right. Then we can take larger steps and eventually get one end leg at the corner of the build plate. So in this first case, you see that the leg of the part is just hanging over the build plate a bit, so we have to move it back in a negative direction. In the Y direction, we can move a larger amount just to get closer to the corner. So that's right on the edge, and we just have to move it further along in a Y direction. So eventually we'll have the part in the right place, and now we're moving the second part to the opposite corner of the build plate. When we've got both parts in the right place, we can have a look at the build plate as it now is. So then we can click Solve. Then we load the results when they're available. And we want to first look at the displacement results. Now, to make the colors here more visible, we're going to turn off element edges. So we do this by right-clicking Displacement and selecting Render Properties. And then we just uncheck this element edges box. Now we can orbit the parts around to look for signs of symmetry once we've got the parts fully built. Take it right to the very end with the build plate removed. So sure enough, the two red faces in opposite corners show the highest displacement. And also there are blue bands on each part in diagonally opposite locations.